Right, good afternoon folks. I'm Barry Kirk from the City Council and I look after a number of transport related functions and that includes sustainable transport as well as a raft of what we would in the old days have called transportation areas of work. Transport's one of those areas where all the conflicts regarding the sustainable agenda all come into play. All the different drivers, all the different demands of transport all play out within that transport field. Makes it interesting, makes it extremely challenging. But what I can stand here and say is how proud we can be in the Peterborough area of the progress that's been made in the sustainable transport agenda. We're very good at it. We're not perfect. We all know there's loads of things that need doing to the transport network, but we are amongst the best areas in the country for delivering sustainable transport. And I've gone the wrong way, the first person to go the wrong way. We've got to accept there's loads of challenges around transport in the Peterborough area. We've got high levels of car use. We started as a new town 40 years ago in terms of planning, and they planned for the car in those days. So we've got high levels of car use in the area. We've got localised congestion. It's not the worst in the world, but it's not very clever at some of the key locations around the city. We've got heavy transport into the city centre. Lots of people travelling into the city centre by car causes all sorts of issues in terms of reliability and economic performance. That's by no means a complete list of transport challenges we face, but it gives a flavour, and a lot of you will know as well as I do the associated issues that come with a lot of those challenges. We've got future issues. We've got an aggressive growth agenda here in the Peterborough area. That's going to increase the demand for travel. That's got to be met in part by sustainable travel. There's no way that amount of growth, and if no sustainable transport improvements are made, there's no way that's going to be met in terms of the accessibility of the city. We know we're in an area of increasing funding pressures. You know, the funding's getting harder and harder to get hold of. We've got to make the best use of what transport funding we can get. We've got to make sure that a good proportion of that goes into sustainable transport. That brings a lasting change to how people travel in the area. And just an interesting one that's certainly on my radar is how do we maintain the public engagement? You know, there is an element of fatigue sometimes around some of the sustainable transport issues. You wouldn't think that listening to the people talking today, but we all know that when we get out there in the real world, there's a lot of people who aren't engaging with the agenda or have got other priorities beyond a sustainable agenda. And I think that's one of the really critical things, it seems to me, for the Peterborough area, is having this environment capital umbrella really does allow transport, sustainable transport initiatives and all other initiatives to sit within a directing force, if you like. And I think that's really important for going forward. Positive news, we can deliver changes in the way that people travel. Between 2004 and 2009, we got government funding, a relatively small amount, £3.5 million over 5 years. Not big bucks when you think what it costs to build a new road, to improve a major highway junction. And we got these sort of changes that you can see on the screen in the 14% of increase in the number of people cycling, increase in walking, 35% increase in public transport, and a reduction in car trips in the areas that were particularly targeted. Those are real changes. They buck the trend against what happens in, if you like, control areas where that sort of investment wasn't done. More positive news. As a local authority, Peterborough City Council's been awarded a further £5 million of local sustainable transport fund money. And this is really, in my view, on the back of the success that we had with the previous Travel Choice project. We're calling it Travel Choice Plus, for the want of anything more imaginative. And we're centring on 4 areas with our local residents and with our sort of partner organisations. Investment into small-scale infrastructure and information, workplace travel planning, into healthier travel, working with the PCT, who have taken an element of the funding across to link that transport and health agenda in an effective way. Young people's travel. We've heard a bit today about school travel plans. We're in a position now where school travel plans have been running a while. We heard again earlier that most, if not all, schools do have school travel plans, but a lot of them are starting to get stale. A lot of them are not active at the moment, so we're going to do a piece of work to offer the opportunity to refresh school travel plans. In terms of infrastructure, relatively small levels of investment can make real changes. And these are just a few of the sort of things that we can do. I quite like infrastructure improvements. That's probably my background to a degree. But I think when we can put good links into the network, the sustainable travel network, they're there for an awful long time. They last. You know, they'll be there long after, you know, many of us have finished our professional lives. You know, we've done things in the past like route branding, you know, where we've put solar studs into key routes, key walking and cycling routes. We've improved the lighting of underpasses, and these have given a real spark, a real incentive for people like schools to start to use these routes to make people trying to make longer journeys aware of routes between key destinations. Cycle accessibility improvements. We've got funding streams both in our local sustainable transport fund and working with Sustrans to make improvements to the cycle network. This is a small scale example, but just shows what can be done by taking out some old barriers through which cyclists had to dismount and replace those with a bollard type solution. It looks more inviting, it looks better, and in itself is a small improvement, coupled with whole route approaches rolled out as the standard, that becomes an attraction to cycling. Makes it look as though it is a means of travel that people will want to do. Again, here's an example. We worked with the Serpentine Green management and with O&H. This is a missing link in the cycle network that was abandoned for a number of years. It couldn't be brought forward for a number of reasons about land ownership, about planning approvals and planning requirements and obligations. And in the end, we worked with our partners on that. We cut to the chase and we put this link in, which takes out a big diversion for people walking and cycling to the Serpentine Green, and is a real value for money solution. This is another small-scale solution that is really positive. These are various locations in the city centre. We get lots of requests for dropped curbs from particularly people who have mobility difficulties, who are using scooters or are struggling with a walk-in. We put those in and we can open up whole areas of the city centre to people who would have struggled to get access by a more sustainable means. Cheap and cheerful solution, real difference, and it's there forever. Similarly, with bus stop improvements, you know, let's make, you know, waiting for the bus a little bit more tolerable. Let's put a nice bit of infrastructure in there. Let's put some real-time passenger information in. Let's put a bus boarder in so people with prams, etc., can actually get on the bus. Really good, relatively cheap solution. Moving away from infrastructure, real easy way to get a modal shift, particularly in the morning and evening peaks, is to have business travel plans. And a number of companies in the area do have very effective travel plans that work on all sorts of levels. They work on the level of healthier staff, less sick days. I'm sure you know all the arguments about them. Less car parking requirements, better environmental credentials, relatively easy solution, big benefits. School travel plans. I won't say much more about school travel plans. You can see from the film clips that we've had on, a lot of the schools are really bought into the environmental agenda. Technology. I quite like technological solutions. That's maybe my sort of transport planning type background. But there is a real role for technological solutions in the right place. We've got information through, through the websites, through mobile phone technology, through real-time passenger information at bus stops, through texting when the bus is available, through charging points for electric vehicles. Electric vehicles themselves a technological solution. These are areas where, again, relatively low cost, particularly when some of the ground's being done. Initial costs can be expensive, but when they're rolled out nationally, these can be very effective ways of promoting sustainable transport and a key strand to how it's seen to take forward Peterborough's sustainable transport agenda. Getting involved. There's loads of ways of getting involved. From a corporate business, organisational point of view, make sure you've got a travel plan. In terms of the planning process, if you're expanding sites, think about getting electric vehicle charging posts in. That's a bit of a tongue twister. We offer a business grant scheme to help with small-scale infrastructure improvements, a match funding arrangement, so that there is means of unlocking small bits of cash for cycle parking, for example, that sort of thing. Schools, we've heard a bit about this already. Lots of initiatives with schools, from travel plans, bikeability. These are replacement for the old cycle proficiency project and for much more awareness raising exercises. Very effective with schools, getting early with kids while they're open to influence on those things. Lots of, we've put cycle events there. You've heard from a number of the other speakers. There's lots of events going on, ways that you can engage, that list expands all the time. But attend some of these events, find out what's going on. Personal changes. Some of these can be really easy. And as I said at the beginning, transport is where a lot of these conflicts do play out around the environmental agenda. But small changes, if people go by bus one day, even out of 5 out of the working week, that reduces the level of congestion by that proportion on the highway network, as well as all those other benefits that it brings through. So there's lots of ways that personal travel can influence the wider agenda. We've got a Travel Choice website, which I'd like you to have a look at, and a Twitter feed, email address, but importantly, talk to my colleagues who have got a stand which is branded Travel Choice, who will run through some of these opportunities, tell you where you can contact our people so they can come talk to you about school travel plans, business travel plans, or whatever it might be within the sustainable transport agenda. Okay, thank you very much indeed.